Now, border force vessels are dealing with a fresh surge in Channel migrant crossings. 7 small boats have headed into UK waters this morning.
Comes as people who've committed sex offences, according to the government, will no longer be entitled to seek asylum in Britain. But some are saying, why wasn't it changed sooner? But, of course, there's a bit of a loophole here, isn't there?
I think so. Mark White is here with us, our GB News' Home and Security Editor, to explain what's going on, Mark.
Well, the government is clearly trying to show that it is taking action to ensure that those who qualify to apply for refugee status, the rules around that are tougher. So currently, if you are a sex offender, you can still apply for asylum, such as Abdullah Zaidi did,
yeah.
you know, that horrific individual who threw the corrosive substance over the woman in Clapham before taking his own life. So they want to tighten the rules around that. But the fact is, even though they may be denied from going down the route of claiming asylum under the Refugee Act, they can still claim asylum under the European Convention of Human Rights, under Article 8, which allows you to claim that your right to a family life is being denied by not being allowed to have asylum. So there is still a loophole, and a very big loophole, that they could get through.
And the Home Secretary, Yvette Cooper, who's bringing this forward, had no response to that other than to say we've got to stop them getting asylum in the first place.
Well, that's it. And she said, you know, they will look again at the rules and the way in which the court system is working, because too often it is down to the individual decisions of a judge, which often then fly against what Parliament means by tightening of rules around immigration.
Where is the Home Secretary? Why is she not talking to us today?
Well, it's a very good question, and I think, you know, it's quite disappointing that yet again the Home Secretary has decided not to come on to GB News. She was scheduled for the morning round this morning, and this is an issue, of course, that is a very important issue for the GB News audience, but for whatever reason, the Home Secretary had decided that she would not appear on this channel, despite me being told, actually, a couple of weeks ago at an event in Cambridgeshire, where once again she was scheduled to come on and be interviewed by me. She pulled out.
Has she ever been on GB News as Home Secretary? She
has, but very, very limited appearances.
Just explain to our viewers what that means. We say things like the morning round. I presume people know what that means. Just explain to everybody, Mark.
So every morning there is what's known as the morning round, effectively, where all of the main political parties would have an individual, such as a government minister for, clearly, the Labour Party, shadow minister for the Conservatives, who would be up and would talk on the issues of the day.
And but you hear them.
There are certain ministers, when we hear that they are on the morning round, the chances of them actually appearing on the channel are quite slim. So now, you'll have to ask them why they've decided not to come on again.
So in the morning, when you can talk to lovely Eamon and Ellie, and they're not going to they're not going to make life uncomfortable for you, you'll hear that politician like Yvette Cooper. She'll be on Radio 4, she'll be on LBC, she'll be on Good Morning Britain, she'll be on all that, but they refuse to talk to us.
Well, yes.
Because why? Because they think our viewers are stupid? That's all we can conclude.
Well, there may be issues that they have with some elements of the output, but as you say, that's not what you're getting on the breakfast programme with Eamon and Ellie. And there are other, issues in terms of the audience that you want to reach. Many of the people that watch GB News are part of the red wall, those core former Labour voters. If you want to win back those particular voters, then appearing on this channel and getting the message across would surely be
at the Labour conference last year and the year before. People came up to the GB News stand all the time. These are Labour Party members saying, "I love GB News."
They're absolute wet wipes, and I tell you, they won't get re-elected in the next election if they don't have the absolute backbone. I nearly said something else that begins with a B, a Kemi Badenoch kind of word, to come on this channel and talk to us.
Exactly.
Right, moving on.
This video is sponsored by Saily. Saily is a brand new eSIM service app. What it does is get you a local SIM card that you can use when you're travelling, so you don't have to pay those crazy roaming fees just to send a text back home. They've got eSIM plans in over 160 countries and 8 regions, so pretty much wherever you're going, they'll be able to make sure you're connected. So how does it work? Well, all you've got to do is hit our link in the description to download the app. It will work on iOS or Android. Buy a plan, you can choose the best time frame for you, and then just install the eSIM on your phone. When you land at your holiday destination, you can activate your plan instantly. Saily eSIMs only ever have to be installed once, so when you go on your next trip, you just buy a plan for a new country, turn that eSIM back on, and just like that, you could be watching the GB News YouTube channel. You can be connected anywhere you go, and you don't have to deal with patchy Wi-Fi in your hotels. So get sorted for your next trip by downloading Saily using the link in the description below, and if you use our code NEWS at checkout, you'll get an exclusive 15% discount on us.
It is also the case that sometimes when people are refused asylum, they can still stay in this country for years and years. They can still be given some sort of leave to remain despite not being an official asylum seeker.
Well, the biggest issue of all is that if you come across in a small boat, then you're very unlikely, I should say, to be removed from the country, because you're quite right in saying even if you're not given asylum, if you come from many different countries now, they are deemed to be too unsafe to return you to. So you are given indefinite leave to remain, which is, for anybody staying in the country, is as good as effectively being given asylum. And of course, as we speak, there are more small boats coming across the English Channel. We were saying 7 before. The latest we're getting from our producer down in Kent is it could be as many as 9 crossing today. So having passed 10,000 who have crossed so far this year, yesterday, 24 hours on, and we're already at about 10,600 odd.
And I mean, we won't always know, well, I don't know how often we actually know what the criminal records of those people coming across in the Channel might look like, particularly if they come from obscure countries where they don't have the same kind of way of registering crimes as we do over here and recording crimes. But I mean, just Abdullah Zaidi is an example of someone, the Afghan national, convicted of various crimes, allowed to stay in this country. Another paedophile from the Congo was allowed to stay because it might ruin his right to a family life. There's lots of examples, aren't there?
Many examples, actually, and we are going to get, we're told, a breakdown eventually from the government about the sort of crimes linked to different nationalities, which will be clearly of interest to everyone who feels and fears that those coming across and claiming asylum, many of them may have a record of criminality that we just don't know about, but then go on to re-offend when they enter the UK system.
Thanks, Mark. I wonder what people at home think. Thanks, Mark, for that.
Well, I like to cheer you up when I can.
I just wonder if people at home think we should go further with this and just say you don't have a right to asylum if you have any type of criminal record, if you commit any type of crime, or is that too harsh? Is that too harsh? I personally think there should be a pretty high bar.
I think it's a very good point, and many people would agree with you that if you come to our country, if you break the rules at all, then, as you say, there should be a high bar to allow you to stay in this country.
Seems a pretty low bar at the moment, doesn't it? Anyway, thank you, Mark White, our security editor, always bringing us good news.
Now we must
and Charlie
move
as well.
on, because Megan...
Asylum seekers will be denied the right to stay in the UK if they've been convicted of sexual offences. It's a new announcement from the government. It's hard to believe this wasn't the case before.
Well, extraordinarily, there have been many asylum seeker cases where the fact that they have convicted sexual offences has actually helped their claim. So there was an incredible case a few years ago of an Afghan flasher, and the judge said that the fact that his sexually disinhibited behaviour would land him in trouble back in Afghanistan, so he can't send him back. There's been similar cases of paedophiles where immigration judges have effectively said your sexual offending might get you in trouble in your home country, you might get beaten up, and then that's allowed them to claim, the right to essentially avoid being tortured under the ECHR.
What about the safety of women and girls here?
Well, the safety of women and girls doesn't count. It doesn't really play much of a role when judges are making a decision. They're thinking about the safety of the migrant primarily, or at least that's how things have turned out. Officially, they should be weighing these things up. The government hopes that with this new measure, that any sexual offence, they're saying, even if it attracts less than a year in prison, should be treated as a serious criminal offence akin to terrorism. But there's no guarantee that, as long as we are within the ECHR, which the government absolutely is committed to, as long as we're committed to things like the Refugee Convention, there's no guarantee that a migration judge won't turn around and say, well, actually, we think that this person's rights is more important than the safety of people in Britain, which is what they've been doing all along.
But they will still be able to bring a case under the ECHR, won't they? And we know how difficult it is to deport anybody once they've done that.
Precisely, and that's the issue. Until we get rid of that option, then not much will change. Reading some of the reports around this, the government has an extraordinary faith in the judiciary to recognise that sex crimes are, something that should lead to deportation. When that's not something that that's not the way they've seen it until this point. I don't think the judiciary are going to change of their own volition, or even, taking instructions from Parliament. I think the problem is the ECHR.
OK. Fraser Myers, good to see you this morning. Thank you very much.
You want to contest anything Fraser's had to say or agree with him, please do get in touch and have your say.